I'll call the meeting to order. The time is 5:30. And we'll move on to proceed with item number 2, approval of the agenda. And the recommendation reads that the agenda for the Committee of Adjustment, Planning Advisory Committee meeting of Tuesday, June 6, 2023 be approved as presented. Do I have a mover? Thank you. And a seconder to approve the agenda as presented. Thank you, Jim. All in favor? Motion carried. Are there any declarations of interest?
None.
None. And minutes. Item number 4 is a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting held on May 4th, 2023. And the recommendation reads that the Committee of Adjustment minutes dated May 4th, 2023 be accepted as presented. Do I have a mover?
So moved.
Jim?
Go ahead.
Second?
Yeah.
All right. And thank you, Craig. Is there any discussion on the minutes?
I didn't find anything wrong.
No discussion. Okay. Then I will call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Item 5.1 is a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment approve minor variance 2023-002 for 253 Van Coffnett Street with the following conditions. The balance, if any, of any outstanding taxes, including penalties and interest, shall be paid to the town of Prescott. That all permits required will be taken out and conditional upon matching the minor variance allowances approved and plans as submitted for the minor variance. That all buildings be pinned prior to construction. Do I have a mover?
Good.
Jim, thank you. And a seconder?
Sure.
Craig. For discussion purposes, any discussion? And Sean Merriman, Manager of Building and Bylaw, will speak to the report. Mr. Merriman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Relief is required from the requirements of the zoning bylaw, specifically as it relates to the front yard setback, as they wish to increase their front porch / screened in area an extra 2 feet into the setback that would normally be required. Normally, as you know, the town requires a 6-meter setback. And in this case, they're only going to have 9 feet, which will be 2.75 meters. And in addition, the bylaw sets a maximum normal lot coverage of 35%, and they're requesting that increase to a maximum of 39%. So this land is municipally known as 253 Van Conan, and it's like many of the other properties south of the tracks, as I like to say, the zoning bylaw really made a lot of sense for any suburbs or housing that was done after the 1950s, but anything before, there's often a lack of the setbacks that would normally be required. This property is just north on Van Conan 1 property in from the corner of King, and it's directly across the road from Fort Wellington. I can advise that the property was properly posted for more than 10 days. I can also advise that all people within 60 meters was sent notice. And I can advise that we also notified Fort Wellington directly, not only through mail, but via email to confirm that, they were aware of the situation. Up to this point, we have not received any comments back from anyone. And I can advise that the applicants are here in the audience tonight. I am not aware of anyone here tonight to oppose it, but we can certainly ask when that time comes. So their existing seasonal sunroom is actually 8 feet wide by 22 feet long. And they're requesting that they take it to 10 feet wide and 22 feet long. Part of it is to make it more functional on the lower level, so that they can more properly enjoy their property, but also to allow them to create a deck up above it that they can also use. But it's not actually, it's not a deck that's in the the land itself. And also due to the fact that this is a very small lot, even though they're only adding 45 square feet, it does push the numbers up. And don't get me wrong, the numbers are important, but the numbers don't tell the whole story. So when we take a look at what we normally look for in a minor variance, as you're aware, we're looking at the 4 tests. And the 4 tests are, is it minor in nature? 2 feet added onto the front porch, especially in this case where they've still got 9 feet to the property line, where operations has been notified and everything like that, and they had no concerns. It can certainly be considered minor. 2 feet, 44 square feet, is just about the definition of minor. When you get to the, like I say, the lot coverage, that's a little bit more tricky because 39 to 35 would normally be a huge jump in what you would normally allow. But again, because of the size of this lot, it's not nearly as bad as it appears because again, in the end, it's only 44 feet additional footprint over what's already there. In addition, when you take a look at the, what I call the building line along that street, how do the other ones still compare? Even with this new addition, they will still be set back as much, if not more, than any of the other houses that are in the area. So again, that kind of says that we're keeping it consistent and in that same line. Then we ask, is it desirable for the use of the land? Well, we always want our people, when they build a house, to be able to enjoy it, to enjoy the things that you would normally do in a residential house. And there's no doubt sitting on your front porch or sitting on a deck is something that you want to do when you own the house. And does the relief maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? Well, the answer is yes. It's residential. It's still going to be residential, so it meets that intent. And the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw was not meant to make undue burdens on people, but to give people adequate space around their neighbors and themselves to enjoy their property. And this here will still meet that requirement. And it's because of that reason that staff is supporting this minor variance application for relief.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion on item 5.1?
I didn't have any problem with it. I was over there Saturday taking a good look at it.
Okay, okay. Any concerns?
No, I don't think so. I'm pleased to learn that there's an established building line there and that it's in line with the established building line or less, so I have no concerns with it.
Okay. I don't have any concerns either. Okay. I will now call the question. All in favor?
You can ask them.
Motion carried. All right. Item 5.2 is a recommendation that the Property Standards Committee approve the following. That the property at 763 King Street West is in violation of section of the Town of Prescott Property Standards Bylaw 47-2021 as outlined in order to comply 2023-09A. That order to comply 2023-09A is valid, and as such, the owner of 763 King Street West is to achieve compliance with the order to comply by 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on June 8th, 2023. If compliance with the order to comply 2023-09A is not achieved by 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on June 8th, 2023, the town will rectify the non-compliance, the cost of which will be deemed to be municipal real property taxes and be added to the collector's roll and collected in the same manner and shall have priority lien status as described in Section 1 of the Municipal Act 2001. That the property at 763 King Street West be deemed a habitual violator of the Property Standards Bylaw 47-2021, and as such, future violation will be given 24 hours to be rectified. The habitual violator status will be lifted once 24 consecutive months have passed with no violations of the Property Standards Bylaw. Do I have a mover and a seconder for discussion purposes? Thank you, Craig. Mover, seconder, Ben? Thank you. Sean Merriman, Manager of Building and Bylaw, will speak to the report. Mr. Merriman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Property at 763 King Street West is a historical designated property on the river and is the gateway on the western side coming into the town of Prescott. A site plan control agreement was entered into by the owner with the town in 2021 for the conversion of the current dwelling into 2 residential units and the construction of an addition that would include up to 8 more residential units for a total of 10 units on the property. The stipulations of the site plan control agreement were based on a mediated settlement regarding the redevelopment of the property between the owner and the neighboring property owners. A building permit was issued in May of 2021 for the renovation of the existing structure, which as per the site plan control agreement was to be completed within 12 months of the building permit being issued. It is noted that the renovation of the existing structure has not been completed 24 months later. The site plan control agreement also stipulates that the building permit for the construction of the addition is to be started within 2 years of the initial building permit being issued. It is of note that a building permit application for the addition still has not been submitted to date, and 24 months have elapsed since the issuance of the initial building permit. Over the last 2 years, the town has received in excess of 60 concerns regarding the condition of this property at 763 King Street West. These have included a multitude of issues, included but not limited to the following: equipment being stored that is not used regularly or at all, stone material that has been on site and remains unused, excessive wood being stored in large piles, alarms going off and left unattended, trees growing out of the rooftop chimney, damage has occurred to fences, and failure to keep the site organized and in a safe condition. The owner does undertake the minimum amount of work when pushed to do so, but has not completed a proper site cleanup to address the concerns over the past 24 months. The site plan control agreement stipulated that the fill that was being stored on site in May of 2021 was to be either placed in its proper location for riverfront landscaping or removed from the site by August 31st, 2021. Not only has the fill remained on site, not in its final location, but additional material has been brought to the property and remains unused. On April 20th, 2023, the order was issued to Mr. Pelda, and it involved the 3 specific sections that we are here to discuss tonight. Under Property Standards Bylaw 47-2001, 4.1A, all lands shall be kept clean and free of litter, rubbish, waste, salvage, refuse, decaying or damaged trees, branches and limbs, objects or conditions that might create a health, fire, or accident hazard. The owner was requested to bring this into compliance immediately, like within 15 days, and then material deemed not necessary and not being used within 30 days was to be removed from site. The second section, 4.1C, yards shall be kept clean and free of any vehicle, including trailers, machinery, or parts thereof, which in a wrecked, discarded, dismantled, unlicensed, inoperative, or abandoned condition, except in an establishment licensed and authorized to conduct salvage working or repair business, and then only if such establishment conforms to all the relevant bylaws. And again, the owner had various pieces of equipment on site that were seldom used, if at all, and some of them did not work. Again, the request was that he bring it into compliance within 15 days. All lands shall be kept clear of long grass under section 4.1B, and it's deemed long grass once it's greater than 20 centimeters, or about 8 inches. Okay, when Mr. Pelda was served with this notice by myself, he did advise that he wished to bring it to Property Standards Committee. I can advise that there has been some movement on the property, especially in the last week or so. Having said that, though, the town is still not satisfied and would still like the conditions as listed approved by this committee. I can advise Mr. Pelda is here this evening, and like I say, always been very polite with me, but not necessarily, never been a problem that way. So his manner with town staff has been impeccable. It's just, we would like to see it cleaned up.
Yep.
I can advise you that some of the neighbors have been concerned due to other projects that Mr. Peld has been involved in. But the only one that I'm concerned about is the one here in Prescott. And again, because it's on the gateway and the heritage property, it is important that we keep it presentable to the public at large. I can advise that we still, even as of today, I got additional concerns expressed to me from different members. It's not just the people here tonight, but the various members that have informed me of this concern. And that is my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sean. Mr. Pelda, do you wish to speak?
Yes, I do. I'll bring up a chair.
All right. You have 5 minutes. 5 minutes to speak. Thank you.
All right. So I'll start by saying I hope I don't get too upset or rude at the beginning. So I'm just bringing that up, and correct me if I may say a few words that are, okay. First off, I did not agree with this order to comply and felt it was my right to come in and have the ability to say something about this, okay? More in regards to, no, I'm not going to go into the complaints. I can do that later on. First off, we'll start with all the vehicles are licensed. All the equipment works, okay? And I'm willing, I can take any one of you there now, let's go start something up and let's run it, okay? So I disagree with some of the items that are said in this particular order. A good portion of the land is not on Prescott property. It is actually on Augusta, which is zoned agricultural one, I believe it is, okay? Where I've stored the wood from the trees that have come down in the storms, that have been cut up for firewood, sitting on pallets, okay, which we do use every winter, okay? So I am recycling all of that tree material, okay? The timelines are literally impossible, okay? So let's go to some history. In 1996, this property was designated a heritage property in Prescott. At that particular time, there was a recommendation to do, I believe, a 9-story seniors home on that property and tear down that building. That was quickly stopped by designating the property heritage. In 2002, I purchased the property in a fire sale, an auction, okay? We converted it, fixed it up, put it into an elevator, spent probably $500,000.
Mr. Pelda?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you only have 5 minutes.
I only got 5 minutes?
And
I'll never make
you've got
it.
about 3 minutes left, so I would just request that
Okay.
you make your points.
Okay, so I'm never going to make, I'll never make it. So I just want to bring to the point that this property, when we purchased it in 2012, was abandoned, empty, okay? So I don't remember there being any property standard declarations then, but we purchased that property as an abandoned building and were required to remove the vagrants that were in that building, okay? So I'm going to bring up a few points here, okay? I've spent $663,000 in the last year and a half on this property. I have every piece of paper here for you, okay, to say that, and I haven't received any financing because of the heritage, and because of the age of the building. I have totally converted that building into new electrical, new plumbing. The interior, I'm on the second floor. I need the lift that they say is never used on the side to lift all my drywall up to the second and the third floors. There's $12,000 worth of drywall that was just lifted there in the last 3 weeks, okay? And we've been concentrating on doing our work on the inside. So also, the fact that this building here had a 3.5-inch drop in it, and I'm sure Sean will agree with me if you ask him, okay? I had to lift this entire building floor by floor to get it level. I have steel beams in here and what we call microlam beams put into this, with my structural engineer guiding us as to what was required to get this building straight and to become reusable, okay? We didn't expect a lot of these costs, okay, of what was existing, especially removing all the cast iron. 5 minutes, now you're rushing me, okay. I received about a month ago from Rito St. Lawrence that would take them over a year to get me a transformer to do the eightplex, okay? Well, that put a whole damper or a stop right on the project, okay? Because of that delay of power. I can't move people in, and I'm not gonna go and build this thing, okay? And spend all this money, it's about almost $5 million, okay, prior to, and then having it sit, not knowing when I'm going to get power to put people in, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Pelda.
Okay, so,
Thank you.
so that was a big item. Am I done?
Yes.
Can I have 5 minutes as well as the other owner?
We have, you're the other owner?
Yes.
Okay. All right, 5 minutes.
Okay. So
Is this Mrs. Pelda?
it is? Okay. What I would like to say is that we have worked continuously on this project throughout the entire time since we've got that building permit. COVID has really hurt us big time on all our projects, but especially this one. Getting staff in a small town like this to come to work consistently has been very difficult. We've gone through numerous young people and to try to get regular staff on board. I put up every day, I get a phone call. Yesterday morning's phone call, the tapers, I finally have the drywall done. That has taken me well over 8 months to get the drywallers in there consistent to do the drywall. Everybody should know this, that how hard it is to get trades. So I finally get tapers coming. They promised me they're coming yesterday morning. Sorry, we're not going to make it today. You know, that's my week, every week. Electricians, plumbers, drywallers, and the people that we've tried to hire and give jobs to.
Are you able to address the concerns of the violations of the bylaw, property standards?
One of the reasons that a lot of the stuff doesn't get moved, it doesn't look like it gets moved. A lot of the wood, as he said, is on Augusta property, but if we don't have staff show up, you can see that my husband, I mean, he's almost 70. He's had numerous health conditions over the last 2 years, 3 heart attacks, a broken leg, prostate cancer, cannot physically move all that equipment. We rely on our people to show up to do it. This is not the only job that we have. All we want to do is work on this job and get it finished. The interior is coming along. We have one apartment that's already rented. We have the other side that has to have all the drywall. We need the lifts to bring the drywall up. We cannot afford to take the lift off the property because it has to be put on a tractor trailer and it has to be moved. Not only that, there's certain times of the year when we're not allowed to move that equipment because the roads won't allow us. I'm sure, Mr. Merriman, you're aware of that there are times that you can't move equipment. So what can I say? I plant plants in the 2 planters outside. I try to keep the front of it as clean as I can. It's not only a source of frustration to everybody else, it's a great source of frustration to us as well. We are doing our level best. We just want to get the inside done so that we can move to the outside. If we start getting handcuffs on us and we can't, we have to go get our lift and hire a transport person to come down and bring us our lift so that we can lift drywall, because it's been more than 30 days since we last lifted drywall. Do you see the cost of that and the expense to us? Like, I don't know what to say. It's a construction site. If you're worried about safety, we can fence the entire property in. I have no problem. The fence is right there. I'll just fence the whole property in if you're worried about safety. But the bottom line is that we need to be able to function, and we are doing our level best. Given staffing availability and everything else, this is not our only project. As I said, COVID hit us. Terrion gave extensions to everything. Why is there no extensions to building permits and things like that? Everybody knows that that's happened, that that's the industry. COVID is not over. I don't know what else to say, except for that, we're doing our level best. What do you want moved? We'll move what we're not using, provided we don't need it. But if we need it, you're putting us to an unnecessary expense. And if you break us, nothing's going to happen to that property.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Zelda. Pelda, I'm sorry. Are there any questions from the committee?
How many projects do you have on the go?
I have one 156 unit in the bell tower in Cornwall. And I'm doing the second year carry-on requirements on the 74 unit in Highland Harbor Club in Gananoque.
These projects were started after Whitehall was started?
No, they were before,
Before.
both of them. One was started in 2017, July, and the other one was started in 2019, the year before COVID.
Because what I'm getting at is why are you stretching yourself so thin? Because I understand the problem with getting people doing things, but if you don't have the time and equipment and people to get all these projects done, why are you taking?
We did have
We
the
did,
time,
I-
the equipment and the people until COVID hit.
Yeah,
We lost so many staff at all jobs from COVID.
and the interest rates went up drastically 5 points, okay, which put on one project alone, $2.5 million of additional cost on the one that's in Cornwall right now, okay? Just from one blip in the market that was totally unexpected, okay? But that had nothing to do with the people, okay? There's just no people out there, period, okay? And we always said this is a two-phase project, and that's why we only applied for doing the original house, okay? Because we knew the original house was going to require a lot of my attention, okay? Being a red seal journeyman carpenter and one of the few in the town, okay? Sort of made sure that I was, going to be available to make decisions and get things done, in which they have. If I showed you the interior, it's spectacular, in my opinion. Okay. And we had to start from somewhere, which was the ground, and work our way up. But I also had to demo the whole place, which kind of caught us totally off guard with the sags in the floor.
Okay, so what's the purpose of all the containers?
Pardon me?
The containers?
The sea cans have furniture, primarily furniture and doors in them. Okay, so they were there right from day one. So we put them out there day one, put all the furniture in so that we could get our work done. Took all the doors out, put the doors in, saved all the trim. All the trims was also in there. So we've been reusing all the trim and reusing all the doors. And that is the intent.
And you don't have a site just for your company itself, right?
No, I don't.
Why not?
I didn't need one. I always have not had this grievance. I've always been able to go onto a site, put our sea cans, put our storage, put our equipment in it. And work. Fence in the property and away we go. Never had that problem. Never had it at Mariners. Never had it at the Mayfield. When we built the Mayfield and when we built Mariners. I never had any complaints.
You got to admit, though, it does look pretty.
Pardon me?
You got to admit, it looks pretty crappy coming in past that.
Well, sure it does. Okay,
But if it wasn't your gateway to your town, would you be?
if I was
would
somewhere
this be a
else.
condition? Like.
Yeah, actually, it would be for me, but and I understand your problem because I mean, a lot of people have a problem with getting staff and stuff, but it has been a long time. And the funny part is was just last week before I even heard about this, I'm driving back because I work in Brockville, right? And I'm thinking to myself, man, they haven't done much to that place. It looks pretty bad. What were they doing, you know?
$660,000 worth.
And then I get this, right?
So I haven't done anything on the exterior except re-roof it and straighten the building out.
And the canopy.
And put in windows and put in
Fix
some
the
of the
canopy.
brick on the 3 sides and fix the front canopy. That was the intent. On the east side, okay, is totally, we have new dormers getting in on the 3rd floor.
Right.
Now, we're on the 2nd floor with drywall right now. Okay, so we're moving up to the 3rd floor that we're scheduled for like within 2 weeks. Okay, so and then the new dormers get ripped out that are rotten. Okay, and are full of pigeons and raccoons. Okay, and we start cleaning that all out and start building the new dormers.
And you started the sun.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And all those big blocks at the front, are they for a seawall or something?
They are actually for the ramp going into the 8-plex. So about 1/3 of that ramp has already been built and then I backfilled, okay? The rest of the stones, we just don't know the exact elevation and the connection to the 8-plex. So we've left enough stones, the same stones that we've already installed in the ground, okay?
On both the east and
Okay,
west
which I
side.
think cost me $30,000 all up so far. So we've left to make that final connection.
Because we don't want.
Do you want me to move them somewhere else?
We don't want the timeline to make us so we can't get the same stone. So we purchase it all at once. The stone is not ugly, the stone's, I mean,
Well, if it was placed out, it would be a lot better looking, obviously, but I mean, it's just the accumulative effect of all that stuff sitting around. That's,
Any other questions, Craig?
no, I'm good.
No?
Thanks,
Donna, do you have any
Ms. Madam
questions?
Chair.
No, thank you, Chair. So the material on the site is all related to this specific construction project?
No. I brought in some 1870s wood, which is the nice fir, which we cut into, and you'll see it's the very first pile. If you drove by, and you would see a pile of square 10 by 10s, okay? So they get sent up and cut because their baseboards are 12 inches high, okay? So we put 10-inch board and then 2 inches of trim on the top of it for a cold
and
wall.
we save the wood from.
And we save the
another
wood and send it out for cutting. Okay, same thing.
Reuse it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And another question, Chair, if I may. Did you say the 8-plex and the stone is for the 8-plex?
Yes.
Which you do not have a building permit for yet?
No.
Okay.
Being
Thank,
used though for landscaping around
That's for the ramp.
main
right.
building.
Yeah.
Because we can't do that till, we have to include that area.
Right.
So we backfilled up against it on the west side, so it'll level the ground, so that we can put the lift in there to lift the drywall.
Thank you.
Okay.
If I may, a question for staff. The June 8th date, I know that's a staff recommendation. I take it committee can consider that date?
Yeah, you can certainly modify any conditions you put on it. Staff's concern, in all honesty, as it relates to this project, is there's always a reason why it didn't get done. More got done in the last week than got done in the first 20 days until we managed to set up this meeting. The last 7 days has just been amazing. If Mr. Belda and his crew had put as much energy into cleaning it up in the first 7 days as he did the last 7 days, he would have probably got an extension to take a bit more time where it was reasonable. The biggest concern staff has is he entered into this site plan control agreement freely. He knew the concerns of the neighbors before he started the construction project. And as much as I can appreciate the increased costs, the problems with labor and everything else, in general, most of the neighbors would even be fine if it took a little longer, providing it wasn't quite such an eyesore during the entire time that it's taken to get done. It's been 2 years of this. It took almost 9 months to get the tree out of the chimney the first time, and it's already growing again the second time. as for his statement that his equipment always works, it's funny, when I asked back with the tree why it was taking so long, the answer was, well, the equipment doesn't work to let me up there. When I came to him with this bylaw, like with this order, he said, well, most of this stuff is getting moved out to auction in the next week or two. And it may have, but it's just always something all the time. And so that's part of the reason why we were requesting stricter timelines, because it seems when there's stricter timelines, we're more likely to have compliance. And if not, the town then can take the steps that are necessary to clean it up and add it to the property as taxes, so.
Okay, thank you. Thank
Can I
you, Sean.
speak?
I would like to support these motions, and I do agree with Craig that, it's the cumulative look, how that whole property looks. And I can appreciate, the cost, difficulty in finding, trades, this sort of thing. But I understand, I live in the community, I can see and have seen over the years, the look of the property. So I will now call the question.
Are we gonna ask any of the neighbors to talk?
No.
Okay.
Ben?
Sorry, that just need to.
On Jim's line amongst us, what were you thinking time-wise?
I was thinking of amending the motion to add another week to the motion.
I make a suggestion a little longer because I can't even get equipment in a week.
I don't support it.
That's part of
I don't support it. An extension.
Oh, no?
Through you, Chair. So if Mr. Hutton has put forward a motion, an amending motion, we can put that on the table. So my understanding is that Jim is requesting that we remove the June 8th date and substitute that for June 15th.
Yes, correct.
So we would put that on the table and then we can call for a seconder. If there is a seconder, then we can call the question. If not, then that amendment dies.
Okay. All right.
I will move that motion if I may, Chair.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Seconder? Okay, Craig, discussion?
Thank you, Chair. I certainly, I very much agree with staff. This is not taking anything away from the seriousness of this recommendation of June 8th. I've driven by that site many, many times as well and wondered, I've often thought it was a construction yard related to not the site. So I understand the seriousness of the situation. I think another week though would perhaps give the applicant a little more time to deal with the issues that's been put forward today. That's all I have to say, Chair.
Craig?
Well, yeah, because when I look at 2 days, I'm thinking there's no way to get that much stuff moved in 2 days, almost impossible. An extra week, I can see it.
Sean, I know there was already the initial order.
Correct. However, at the same point, staff is not willing, doesn't look to be unreasonable. We simply look for firm timelines that can be implemented so that the town, if necessary, can take the steps necessary. Because unfortunately, the whole community has to deal with this as well as the current homeowners that live there, which is the Beldas, so.
Okay. All right. All right, so we're going to be changing the motion.
Yes, so through you, Chair. Currently on the table is a motion to amend the motion on the table, which would be just to remove in section 2 the date of June 8th and change it to June 5th. So that is the motion that you'll be voting on right now.
Okay.
And then
And section 3.
And section 3.
And Madam Chair, if I might, we could add at the bottom of that if it was not the honest effort to get everything done by the 15th, then we come down like a ton of bricks.
Okay. So the recommendation is that we extend the deadline from June 8th, 2023 to June 17th. Is that what it was? 15th, I'm sorry, 2023. And that if we may add to that, there will be follow-up from the manager of building and bylaw services.
And there'll be no further concessions.
And no further concessions. Okay. I have a mover.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Committee member Hutton's already moved and committee member, so now you just call the question on the amendment only.
Okay.
Sorry if I may, Chair and staff. So the amendment was for June 15th, and now I'm hearing a couple of other things added to that amendment, or are we just voting on the 15th?
So Craig has requested that we add to that motion that there's going to be follow-up
There'll be no further.
from Sean, and that we would proceed from there.
That's a given.
Yep.
So if I may, I think number 3 covers that.
Okay.
So if you're comfortable with it, we're just changing the date from June 8th to 15th
Okay.
to both 2 and 3. And then number 3 gives us the go-ahead and an understanding of what the committee's decided.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
Thanks, Jim. That was a good point.
Okay. All in favor? Motion carried. Yep.
So now, so that was the amending motion. So now the motion that's on the floor is the main motion with that amendment. So the original mover is committee member Warden with committee member Hutton seconding. So it's the original motion with those dates changed. So.
Okay.
you'd like-
So item 5.2, is that what you're referring to? Sorry.
No, sorry. Yeah, so 5.2.
Yep.
So basically just amended the motion so that we can now, the main motion will now read June 15th, 2023 in section 2 and June 15th in section 3. So
Okay.
that's the motion that's now on the table to vote on.
Okay.
Okay.
And so do I need to repeat that?
You can repeat the whole motion if you'd like, or if the committee is comfortable with how that motion reads, you can just ask,
Okay.
call the question.
Okay. Are you comfortable with?
I'm comfortable with it.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So all in favor?
Thank you.
Motion carried. Thank you. All right, moving on. All right. I'm sorry, I've lost my spot here. Okay, here we are. Item 5.2 is a recommendation that the Property Standards Committee approve the following. That the property at 658 East Street is in violation of Section 4A and C of the Town of Prescott Property Standards Bylaw 47-2021 as outlined in order to comply 2023-07A. And that order to comply 2023-07A is valid, and as such, the owner of 658 East Street is to achieve compliance with the order to comply by 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on June 8th, 2023. If compliance with the order 2023, order to comply 2023-07A is not achieved by 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on June 8th, 2023, the town will rectify the non-compliance, the cost of which will be deemed to be municipal real property taxes and be added to the collector's roll and collected in the same manner and shall have priority lien status as described in Section 1 of the Municipal Act 2001, I'm sorry. And that the property at 658 East Street be deemed a habitual violator of the Property Standards Bylaw 47-2021, and as such, future violation will be given 24 hours to be rectified. The habitual violator status will be lifted once 24 consecutive months have passed with no violations of the Property Standards Bylaw. Do I have a mover and a seconder for discussion purposes? Craig, mover, Dan, seconder. Sean, manager of building and bylaw, will speak to the report. Mr. Merriman.
This property, through you, Madam Chair, this property is located at 658 East Street, and it's in a residential neighborhood south of the tracks in an older part of the town. The gentleman that resides at this place has been there basically all his life and has been a local member within the community in Prescott during that entire time. In this report, this will make the second time that the town has needed to go in and clean up this property, and a picture was provided to you in July 2009 when it was last cleaned up. Pictures were also provided showing 2013 as it started to build up prior to the order being issued on April of this year, and then another photo was given to show it as of April 20th. This year. Mr. Toussaint has always been relatively polite when dealing with staff, but he has been most ardent that he is allowed to use his property as needed for him to do what he does, whether it be gardening or recycling or whatever the case may be. Mr. Toussaint has a habit of going around town and offering to take away material from various sites where it ends up on his property with seldom, and if it's used, I certainly cannot tell what the use of it was for. Mr. Toussaint was provided with the instructions to clean it up, and he advised through the bylaw officer, Samantha Hanson, and he advised at that point that he did not wish to comply and that he wishes to argue his case, in which case we brought it before you, the committee. We can advise that over 40 complaints have been received on this property through the years. There's occasionally some progress, but it's very limited. And staff honestly feel part of it might be that the neighbors have just come to the conclusion the town doesn't want to do much, so they don't complain as often as they would like. In the last few months, though, it has certainly escalated the amount of material that is there. In fact, a picture was provided, I believe, farther on that shows you what it was literally 2 days ago on the last 2 pages that show you how much worse it even got since the order was served back in April. This one is to the point that we're concerned for life safety. Not only life safety for the neighbors, but life safety for Mr. Toussaint for being in this situation. He has been offered help, the OPP and the county, but at this point, every time he has refused to accept that help. And even in this case, the town is moving forward with this, understanding that we may never claim the funds that it's going to cost us to clean it up. It does need to get cleaned up in staff's opinion. And so therefore, we respectfully request that the committee uphold the concerns and the conditions that have been put forward to you this evening. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sean.
Do you mind me asking, Samantha, did I miss anything that you felt was important? Okay.
No? Okay, thank you.
May I speak to one thing right at the moment? Just while it's fresh? The idea of.
I'm just waiting for questions from the committee.
Yes, ma'am.
Ben, Craig,
I don't mind him going first and then we can talk to him if
do you have any questions, Craig?
Not a whole lot.
No? No? Do you have a question, though? You're welcome to ask your question.
I want to hear what he has to say first.
Ben? Question?
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Okay.
I'm just very concerned about the safety of the property as well. Just looking at the pictures, this property I find even a little different, quite a bit different than the one we just dealt with, because this property is surrounded by residential neighbors on at least 3 sides and the street on the other. So it's very, very much in proximity to other neighbors. So I'm a little concerned about that. And I'll ask any other questions if they arise. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Toussaint?
Yes, what help did Mr. Merriman speak of that the OPP and the county offered, and why? Please and thank you.
I'm sorry.
Can you have Mr. Merriman explain the hows and whys of why he offered the help between the OPP and the county?
I'm sorry, you're asking me that
I'm
question?
asking you to address Mr. Merriman. He referred to help that was offered. I'd like to know why the help was offered and what the help actually was.
Okay.
Because that was a specific I'd like to bring up as well.
Sean?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, and also we have the community liaison here with us from the OPP tonight. Anytime we have a property such as this, we offer solutions that may help people manage their situation. Mr. Toussaint may not see it as a question of hoarding, but the town certainly does. So they've been offered help to either help with the cleanup and or the costs involved with that. But Mr. Toussaint actually has to accept that help. They're very much voluntary compliant programs that result in this. And like I say, even right now, if he said that he'd accept the help, we'll use that as much as we can when we're enforcing the order.
Now, may I add with regard to what this is? There's a property known as Mr. Goldsmith's that was purchased by a private residence. The elevation of their front porch is approximately 6 feet above the sidewalk. I mentioned that it had not had a railing on for the whole summer last year. And Mr. Merriman told me that in response to that he was going to send the OPP and the mental health nurse over to talk to me because my yard had enough of a mess that I should deal with that. That was the response and why. It wasn't to offer help. It wasn't to offer anything at all. And with regard to safety, the trees between myself and Mr. Jeffrey Ogwire here are 70-foot plus. The bylaws as they are right now, if his trees, deemed as Mr. Merriman said, they're his trees, if they fall on my property, then my property gets damaged, my people get killed, and it's my fault that his trees fell on my property. I don't agree with that. I think they should be taken down to a safe height. And in fact, last year, Jeffrey dropped 2 branches on my fence. I put up a 6'7" high fence from the front to the back. And is there water? My mouth is, I'm really upset. May I have water, please? I put up a 6'7" high fence, solid pool steel. My first application it was going from the road right to the back of the property. I had it up tight, perfect in cedar posts and stretched out level, perfect. My property runs on an angle from the north to the south and from the west to the east. So by the time we got to the back, my lower part in the back, the fence is not only 6'7" now, it's up almost 8 feet according to mine because I'm lower. But if you go to the neighbor's side, it's 6'7" and follows it directly on the fence. Mr. Merriman made me take that fence down twice and reinstall it. Now, pool steel is not, it's like paper. You can't wrinkle it or it's no good. And I have put painstaking efforts in to get that. Now, with regard to, Samantha mentioned steel laying in my backyard. The only way that the backyard can get a picture of is through Mr. Matt's camera on his roof line. That's another issue. I'd like his cameras removed from his roof line and off of my property. His cameras are viewing my property over the roof line. He can't see into my yard from the deck. So I'm not bothering anybody. He's got a solid steel wall, 6'7", same with Jeffrey. Jeffrey was nice enough to allow me to go on his property to repair my fence and get it in good order, and there's still more to be done. Part of the wood that you've seen in the picture that is recent came from down at Circle K, which is now going to be Chuck's. I had the opportunity to purchase what was there so that I would have material to finish the things that I'm doing. I also have a very large collection of greenhouses, and I want my whole yard in greenhouse, excuse me. I have a large yard, I garden extensively, and I want my whole backyard in greenhouses except for a couple little places where I have currants growing, and I have red, white, and black currants that have been growing there for 20 years. I've been there 21 years. My nut tree that my gazebo is under, I've got a steel roof under my nut tree that I planted 20 years ago. And the tree keeps the steel cold, which gives me a microclimate that is very, very nice in the summertime. So Samantha mentioned steel laying in my backyard. There's a guy named Noah Bastine. He has already been booked to start putting steel on the front slope of my roof on the 12th, which is next week. The rest of the steel, it was supposed to go on the roof. I have put shingles on the roof 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I fell off of a ladder and hurt myself trying to cut the limbs off of the trees. That the biggest weed I have in my yard are the maple keys from these trees. I've went up 50 feet between owners. They're up higher than I can get with a 3-section ladder. Why? Why is this danger that I have to face and these weeds that I have to face constantly? I grow hops. The vines are on lines. Mr. Matt has poured something right by his downspout, and there's about 12 feet of that section of flower bed that my hop vines have died, and there's nothing will grow there.
2 more minutes.
Everything that I have in the yard is usable and needed. It is a safe yard. I do want my greenhouses. Mr. Merriman said I have to have just green space, that there's a limit to 1 greenhouse in the backyard. I don't believe that that is, or I do believe that that is not very good for this type of, thing. I have a large backyard. It's totally fenced in because I have a big dog. And the stuff that I got was for my greenhouses. I'm going to finish my greenhouses. I want to. I need them. The sun evaporates water, and water costs money. It's water economy. The things do better in the greenhouses. And when everything is in the greenhouses and established, then there won't be anything surplus in the yard. And the one picture they've got a picture of my snowblower. That snowblower is being used. My trailer is licensed and being used. And as far as the other stuff that you've seen in the latest picture, that stuff was just brought from Chuck's. And I've got to catalyze that and with your authority, finish off my greenhouses and get my greenhouses in order. I've got a lot of vegetables planted already, and I intend to get more as I can become available and get them in the ground. I do donate to the food bank. I go to the food bank. I'm on disability, and food is expensive. I don't know if you noticed, but with the last little upgrades that the Ford has done there, a bag of dog foods went from $20 to $35.
Thank you.
And all the rest of the food has gone up as well. So yes, this will be cleaned up. What you see there is not going to be seen. I am building another gate to go. Well, there's a gate that's going, a bifold gate that's going on in front, same as the fence.
Thank you for your comments.
So
Any questions from the committee for Mr. Toussaint?
Yeah, Tom, if you're using all this stuff, then how come it's getting more and more accumulation with each picture we see?
the building down here that was Circle K, that was Max Milk, that was Subway, they just started on that 3 weeks ago. I was walking by and I wanted 2 of the shelves. And I bought them, and I was lucky enough to purchase everything that was there that was salvageable as far as metal and shelving and the brown aluminum off the front, which will detail my fence and my buildings. I have green and brown. That's the theme of my steel and my aluminum, and that's there. That was 3 weeks ago. I did get hired on. I'm on disability and work is hard to get. They did hire me on to do cleanup for 3 days. Then I was hired on again for another further week to do insulating and vapor barriering. And then they called me back again to go down and help do the concrete and pour concrete. And I'm expecting tomorrow to get called back to go down and start doing the framing on the outside for the rest of the outside framing.
These pictures cover a long range of time.
No, sir, yes, I would expect that they do. I would accept that. Yes, they do. But what we have to understand is a long period of time is a long period of time ago. Okay, the fence was put up 3 years ago.
But what has that got to do with the accumulation in your yard?
Well, the accumulation in the yard is that the stuff that you see in the pictures today it just moved in there a week ago, like I said. And it's moving out and it's getting cut up. I need to put purlins on Sean knows what purlins are. I need to put purlins on my greenhouses, and I need to get the glass mounted, the windows mounted. I have those in the backyard as well. Mr. Gary Findlay just put new windows in his house last year. And I was lucky enough to obtain his old vinyl windows, which are better than my old wood sash windows. So I'm going to be retaking those windows and putting them in my windows and then getting rid of my windows or putting them into my greenhouses. But the big key for me right now is, am I allowed to have my greenhouses? And I do want to increase the number of greenhouses I have to cover, as I said, I want to have a total perimeter of a greenhouse. It'll be one greenhouse. And it goes in a square in the backyard with 2 courtyards in the backyard for the currants, which are
Any other
growing.
questions, Craig?
No.
No. Ben, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, thank you.
No? Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Toussaint. I will now call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Does anyone have any new business?
Is there anybody to get an extension on this one? Like, you still did not establish whether I can or cannot have greenhouses. And the question of why can't I have greenhouses?
Ben?
Jim, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Jim, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'd like to be Ben. I just don't, that's
Oh, dear.
I saw Sean with his hand up there. That question is in front of the committee and it's not for the committee, I don't think, to answer that question on greenhouses. But
No, and it's not. It is a zoning question, and no, accessory structures outside the main house can't exceed 645 square feet. And no more than, like I said, there's much more than 645 square
Right.
feet with all the accessories he's talking about. Plus, he had no building permits to build them in.
They're pole buildings.
Right.
They're tarp buildings.
And the fence was there. Do you have a permit for the fence?
He did, and the thought was the fence would help him keep a little bit of stuff that he wanted to keep without it being a burden, and unfortunately, it's went the other way. It's encouraged the behavior to accumulate more stuff.
How are the tarp buildings needing a building permit? They're sold and everybody has them. They don't require building permits.
So at this point, I think the committee has decided on their particular motion and it's been passed.
So there's supposed to be a Bill 23 that Ontario's passing.
So, Mr. Toussaint, I'm going to recommend that you may have a conversation with Mr. Merriman tomorrow if you so wish. You can take it up with him. The committee has made a decision
And that decision is which, Mary?
that the motion's been carried.
And what is the result of the motion? Can you read
So,
how many greenhouses I'm allowed to have?
no. It's basically that you're in violation of property standards.
What am I allowed to have, ma'am? What are the violations? The stuff that you see in the pictures that is in the front yard, that's going. That's not going to be there.
Sean, would you,
That's on its way to the yard right now.
It'll be the entire yard.
the entire yard?
The entire yard is in what? Be specific, please, Sean.
All the material that is in the outside, we don't allow outside storage of material in
I'm not
residential
storing
sector.
material, Sean.
Regardless of how you refer to it, we see it as storage, Tom. And so therefore, after June 8th, we will be in with the
I
town.
have Noah coming on the 12th to help me put steel on. I need that steel, and that steel is not hurting anybody. That steel was purchased for the reason to put on the house. And the last time that you did the bylaw enforcement, Mr. Swan didn't come back for the afternoon proceeding.
Toussaint, the motion has been carried.
Mr. Merriman addressed me, sorry, I'm just trying to speak to the mayor and to the
Yeah,
council.
discussion is over. The motion's been carried. Thank you. Does anyone have any other business? Any media present? No media? Okay. Item number 8 is adjournment, and I have a recommendation that Committee of Adjustment, Property Standards Committee meeting be adjourned.
So,
And, pardon me?
so moved.
The time is 6:34. Yes, thank you. And do I have a mover and a seconder?
So,
Craig?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?